All right, welcome back to another episode of the Karter Cast. I'm your host, Karter Baughan. In person, we actually did it this time. We did it that one time, but the lighting's not awful in here. It's a weird room. You're probably looking at it, you're like, where the hell are you guys?
I think, honestly, throughout the season, this is our third episode in our third different place, right? Like, I think it should be like a Where's Waldo type thing. Like, we just appear in different places.
We appear in a BYU classroom.
Yeah.
The Caniac corner at Raising Canes. That would actually be a great place to do a podcast.
That'd be an awesome place to do a podcast. I can't lie.
Yeah, Canes would suck after this. All right, we're back. We're going to do, like I said, we talked about it last week. Everybody stinks. Everybody's losing. No one can win on the road. That's the consistent theme in college basketball this season. The specific point I want to start with is, who's the best player in college basketball? We don't have a number one draft pick. I was doing the NBA pod earlier with Connor. Go listen to that. And we're talking about teams tanking. What are you tanking for? There is not a single player in college basketball I would tank for. But then you always have, like, that doesn't equal the number one draft pick necessarily, meaning, just Paolo Banchero wasn't the best player in college basketball, but he was the best draft prospect. Who is the best player in college basketball right now?
So you're looking for, like, just in college basketball, not prospect. I think we should just not overthink this and go with Zach Edey.
Really?
I think so.
I was thinking Dalton Connect.
Okay.
I was thinking
you can convince me. Dalton Connect was on my list. I think Zach Edey is probably likely the favorite to win National Player of the Year again, unless it's voter fatigue.
Yeah.
Would you think so? Just with the stats he's going to put up.
Would he be the lamest multi-Wooden Award winner?
Maybe.
I think he would.
Yeah, multi. Who are the other multi?
Hansbrough probably won it twice, right?
Probably.
Leitner,
that was one that came to mind.
Leitner?
Maybe.
Like, these are this we can look it up here in a second, but this is what you're competing against, like the Hansboroughs, the Leitners. Zach Edey's not going to be remembered like a Hansborough or a Leitner.
No, he won't. He'll just be like I think there'll be times in which people will look back and see highlights of him and be like, oh, it's like that tall dude at Purdue. And that's what he'll be known for. He'll maybe be like a backup center in the NBA for like a few years.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Just sort of like how Tyler Hansbrough didn't really hang around the NBA. Yeah. Like, same sort of vibes. But Dalton Connect, you could easily convince me. I think one issue, though, is on the defensive side of the floor. Yeah. He's not, really up to par with Tennessee's defense, but he gives them, like, I love Dalton Connect. Yep. So you could easily convince me. Dude can score, shoot, really at all three levels. But the defensive side of the floor is an issue.
What about Hunter Dickinson?
He was on my list of like sort of like probably a first-team All-American.
RJ Davis? He
was also on my list.
I don't think anybody will get close to him for ACC Player of the Year.
No. He was definitely on there. I had Edey, Dickinson, RJ Davis, Dalton Connect, and then I also put in, like, maybe Lance McCullers. Like, I just threw his name out there with, like, question marks.
Yeah.
But, like, really, when you get past that, I don't think there's obvious guys, because when you're looking at, like, some of these really good teams in college basketball right now, I don't think you can look at, like, a specific player, right? Like, Arizona, it's like, who is the player for Arizona? It's like, they've got a great starting five. UConn's got different good pieces, but there's not just, like, one guy on each of them that you can point to.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because when you talk about Purdue and Zach Edey, you're like, okay, Zach Edey does this, but what you're really pointing to is the guards. Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe we just don't have good enough guards this year in college basketball. I think we're just lacking horrifically in that department, because, like, RJ Davis, think about, like, 2019, 2018. Is RJ Davis a top 10 player in the country?
No, I don't think so. And I think that'll make things really interesting, because especially in March, really guard play wins in March.
Yeah, guards are everything.
Yeah, so
we're here in Provo right now. I say that every time BYU plays, it's like, oh, this is going to be their downfall in March. They don't have a ball handler. Their point guard can't score the ball. He can, but, like,
inefficiently. He's not a great dribbler.
He can't control the tempo. His handle is so loose, and the decision-making's not there, and you don't feel comfortable with him having the ball in his hands.
Yeah, I agree. That's what'll make March Madness, I think, it'll make the tournament really interesting.
That'll be weird.
Because I'm not sure where things will go.
Overrated, underrated teams. I'm just going to name a team. You tell me if they're overrated or underrated.
Okay.
Kentucky.
Underrated.
I think they're underrated too. I don't think they're getting the respect they deserve.
I still think they're not talked about enough.
Yeah.
I still think they're a little underrated.
But I mean, that's
which
what
I'm
happens
surprised about. It's a blue blood that's honestly performing really well and has a lot of potential. And it's still kind of.
But that's what happens when you lose to a UNCW and you lose to Texas A&M. You lose Texas A&M. That's a tough road game. Like Texas A&M's going to probably win 70-80% of their home games. But I think that's why. I don't know why Kentucky's not getting more hype around it. This is a fun Kentucky team, and this is like the first year it's been a fun Kentucky team that's not getting enough hype.
Yeah, I also think it's very much like vintage John Calipari. Like, this is like a John Calipari team.
Where they get the second or third seed in the SEC tournament and they make a run and you're sitting there Sunday morning like, oh, yeah, Kentucky versus Auburn in the SEC title game.
Yeah, and it's one of those teams where it's like you have NBA first-round caliber players coming off the bench. It's just sort of like John Calipari with this roster is in his bag this year.
Yeah.
So I think they're underrated right now.
Carolina.
I want to say overrated, but just reality is.
Are they properly rated?
I think right now, but I still think they're not like the fourth best team in the country.
So you're saying overrated then?
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'll stick my head out. Overrated.
This is the best sell high spot on Carolina.
Yeah,
I'm sitting here with a 40-1 Carolina to win the title ticket. I'm sitting here like, oh man, I'd love to cash out on this if I could. I mean, they're down to like 14-1 on most books.
Look, they're a good team. I still just don't feel like they're a national championship caliber team.
No.
I don't look at like I almost feel like they're sort of like they're just steady and doing what they should be doing, which they deserve proper credit for.
Well, they didn't beat any good teams.
But they're not losing to bad teams, which everyone else is doing.
Yeah, they're the Dolphins of college basketball. The Carolina Tar Heels are the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Think about it. What teams have Carolina beat outside of Tennessee?
Oklahoma.
What is Tennessee?
I think that's the
What
answer.
is Tennessee notoriously known for in March, in the playoffs, in the tournament?
Losing.
Who was the one team that the Miami Dolphins beat in the regular season that made the playoffs?
The Cowboys.
What are they known for?
Losing in the playoffs.
Bingo. That is the only good team they've beaten. You look at the other teams, you're like, Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma's 14th in the country. That doesn't mean crap.
Yeah, because they're not.
They're a bad team. They play nobody, and the second they've played anybody that's decent, they've gotten waxed.
Yeah.
Absolutely waxed. When they played Carolina, that wasn't even a game.
No, it wasn't.
And trying to think the other game, like they couldn't beat UConn.
Mm-hmm.
UConn's a good team. That's fine.
Yeah.
You got to beat UConn or Kentucky to prove you're that team.
Yeah.
Beating
they came close.
Yeah, they did.
But it proves to me that they're not like I consider Kentucky and UConn as like national championship contending teams, and the fact that UNC is not able to beat either of them tells me that they're just a notch below. I think they're sort of like in the top tier right now, or considered the top tier, and I really think they're probably like a second tier team when it comes to the national landscape. So,
yeah. I would say that. I mean, they're a good team. They're probably going to win the ACC regular season because
I'd be shocked if they didn't.
Because they only have to play Wake once.
Yeah.
And you got to play Duke twice, but they'll probably split that. And then Duke's already lost to Georgia Tech. Duke will fumble the bag against like Virginia Tech and State, as they always do. And then no one else outside of those two are competing for an ACC title. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would say Carolina's overrated at the moment. This team can make a Final Four. I hope they make a Final Four because I'm getting Final Four tickets early this year, so I hope I can sell high and then get to the game and then sell them. But and also thank goodness I will say this as ACC people, thank goodness Carolina isn't losing to butthole teams.
As a conference, we'd be really screwed if they were. We'd be really screwed if they were.
I'm so mad watching Clemson the other night. They blew an 8-point lead with like 56 seconds left against Georgia Tech, and Miami's a 6.5-point favorite against Florida State at home, loses by like 7 outright. You're like, what? Wake can't win a road game. State can't win against any good team in college basketball. Like, it's a pitiful conference right now.
It really is. It's really bad. I think you just hope a few of these teams can just sort of salvage it by getting it together.
Yep.
Or just like, I almost think like you don't want these teams beating up on each other. Like in the Big 12, that's a fine thing. In the ACC, it's like we just need the cream of the crop to rise. Just a few others.
We also need the ACC to start scheduling the non-con like the Big 12. Because the Big 12 schedule is nobody. And
then they look good.
Yeah, they look good. Houston's 2 toughest games were what? Texas A&M and who else? Iowa or Utah? It's probably Utah.
Yeah.
And what are those? Like,
and Utah is like probably a tournament team, but that's not even
a lock.
That's not even a lock at this point. So
is the Pac-12 a one-bid league? They might be a one-bid league.
They might. I think I still think probably 2 because I look at Oregon and think they could get in. I still think like Colorado has enough talent to like potentially do it.
I took forever to load this, but this is what I wanted to bring up real quick. So I know bracketology, whatever, but it's a mock bracket. This is kind of gives you a good outline of like what college basketball is this season. So right now, Joe Lunardi's bracket has Carolina as a 1 seed. In their bracket, the top 4 seeds are Carolina, Illinois, Auburn, Houston. Carolina gets out of there. They're only tough. I think Auburn would be their toughest game.
I think if I were filling out a bracket with that, I think I'd have Auburn.
Yeah, I would have Auburn. I would.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be picking UNC to go based off principle almost. But
Auburn could easily lose in the second round to Princeton or Florida Atlantic.
Absolutely, they definitely could.
Yeah. All right. Duke, overrated, underrated.
Underrated.
They are underrated.
I never thought I'd be saying that about a Duke team. Looking in the camera right now, never. This is video evidence of me saying that Duke is underrated. I think they probably are.
Yeah. I mean, they're not a bad team. I want to say shout out Barstool Riggs. He was on Titus's show today, and he said, I don't see Duke winning the national title because when I close my eyes, I can't sit there and see Ryan Young lifting a national title trophy.
I love what I listened to that exact part, and my first thought was, well, Brian Zubek was on the stage, and then Titus said that immediately after that.
I sent that to 3 people, 3 other people too, and I was like, yeah, the Ryan Young thing, and they're like, well, Brian Zubek won a freaking title. I don't want to hear all the Plumleys won a national title with Duke.
It's true. Marshall Plumlee was up there.
Ryan Young is turning into an honorary Plumlee.
I think so. Either that or there's like a second like alternate like to the Plumleys, like the other white big men, like Zubek is there, I think Ryan Young's there, Ryan Kelly, like he's sort of it's like the alternate big white guy. It's like you got the Plumleys and then you've got like the other family.
Ryan Young is just Marshall Plumlee and Ryan Kelly morphed into one.
Yes, I agree.
With a little bit of Javin DeLaurier sprinkled in there.
Oh man,
I think this Duke team's underrated, though. I mean, they're flying under the radar. This is perfect as a Duke fan. I love this. No one's talking about us. No one's giving us respect, which I'm fine with that. Weirdly, we snuck into that 7th ranked spot just because everybody else lost.
Yeah.
But they're not losing these crap games, even though they almost lost to Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
maybe we should go back on this take.
No, but was it Pitt? Where they just looked, it wasn't Pitt.
Yeah, Pitt. It was Pitt.
It was Pitt. And they're playing Pitt again.
Saturday after a week off.
Like, I don't know why they can't spread these out a little more. But with that being said, yeah, I mean, they looked fantastic in that game. I think, like, I come from the perspective of I think they're underrated because we've seen sort of like the vision of what they can be, and that's all I need to know right now.
Yeah, and you were like, oh, we should spread out this Pitt game. Like, didn't they just play them? Buddy, I got news for you. Every game in the ACC is Pitt. We got Louisville, Clemson, Boston College, Notre Dame, Florida State, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's keep this going. Overrated, underrated. Let's say UConn. Properly rated?
I was going to say properly rated.
They're a national title team.
I was going to say properly rated. I mean, they're rated, 1 right now? Maybe I think they're the 3rd best team in the country.
Who's 1 and 2?
I'm going to say Purdue, and although they've been underachieving, I'm still holding on to that Arizona belief.
Oh, 100%. That Duke game, the Arizona Duke game, winning at Cameron, I don't care if you win in November, March, December, whenever. If you win at Cameron, that is no joke.
Yeah, that's a great Arizona team.
Yeah. And
I don't care that they're losing random games at Stanford. Like, whatever.
Because it would be so easy to let your guard down this year in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Because they're genuinely probably a one-bid league. Arizona, Utah. The Mountain West is
Oregon.
Maybe,
but they're like a 10 right now, according to Lenardi, right?
Or
Colorado can.
The Mountain West is going to get more than
they are.
The Mountain West is going to get more than the
Pac-12. That's not debatable. That's not even like an exaggeration.
Do you have another team, overrated, underrated, that you wanted to bring up?
Houston, overrated.
Sorry. Yeah. I thought you overrated, completely overrated.
Baylor, overrated.
Back to the Houston point. I just can't believe they're so overrated. I have no faith in that Houston team. Baylor, smidge overrated, but a smidge.
A smidge. I think people have sort of caught on to them a little bit. I think Kansas a little overrated. I think Tennessee a little underrated.
Now. Tennessee smidge underrated. I think. Like, I know I was talking about it before. Like, oh, Carolina only beat Tennessee, who chokes in the playoff, but I could see this Tennessee team winning the national title. That gets to another point. Let's talk about that.
Let's get into that.
Is Matt Painter and Rick Barnes capable of winning a national title?
They are capable of winning a national championship.
Are they?
They are capable. When we were preparing this, though, the question was, do you trust them in March? No. I don't trust them, but they are capable. I don't trust Tony Bennett in March. But he won a national championship. He can.
I know everyone's going to make the Virginia-Purdue comparisons after losing to FDU and Virginia losing to UMBC, blah, 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 and coming back redemption year or whatever. To that point, I want to say this, is that Purdue, like most teams, it's like Duke getting over the hump is like, oh, you got to win your Elite Eight game. Carolina, you got to win your Sweet 16 second-round game. Like or Kansas, you got to win that first Final Four game or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Purdue's is just winning that first round, and they're sneaky kind of playing with house money the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, I do think Final Four will kind of be the bar for this team still.
Yes, absolutely. If they don't make the Final Four, it's a disappointing
season. It's a disappointment.
But in the casual college basketball fan, how the mass media of basketball is going to see this Purdue team, when they win that first round game, that is going to be such a relief for them, and they're like, all right, we can play freely now.
Yeah, I mean, when the Virginia comparisons are inevitable because of the situation when they went down against Gardner-Webb, and then once they made that run, you could see it in everyone's face, they're having fun. There's a dunk by DeAndre Hunter where he and Ty Jerome were both smiling, yelling down the court. You could tell it's okay, we've kind of buried our demons a little bit, and now we can just play. You didn't feel the nervousness of the team going forward once they separated and easily beat the 16 seed.
Yep.
At that point, I think it's going to be a similar thing for Purdue. I wouldn't be shocked if whoever they play gets hot from three at the beginning. We're going, oh boy, here we go.
Yep. Yeah, just like
Gardner-Webb.
North Carolina Central is just nailing threes to start the game. You're like, and Edey gets 2 fouls early, and you're like, whoa, what's happening?
Yeah, but then Braden Smith will assert himself in that.
He'll have a triple double.
Yeah, he will, and that's something he couldn't do last year. That's the difference for me with this team.
Rick Barnes, though, Tennessee.
I trust him less than Matt Painter.
I do too, but defense is going to travel. They have the best player. I think they have the best individual player on offense in the country. Therefore, I'm fully buying this Tennessee team. I feel like this year you have to, in college basketball, I feel like this year especially, you have to buy in on one of those teams that's notoriously known for choking. Every year people, they're like Gonzaga. Gonzaga's that team, and every year I'm like, no, I'm going against Gonzaga no matter what every single year. But this year, I have to put Tennessee in that category. That's going to be the team that everything in the world, all that history has shown me is don't trust this coach, don't trust this program in the tournament. but I'm going to trust them. I'm going to put all my eggs in the Tennessee basket, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think Purdue's yours.
Yeah.
I think Purdue's yours. You're like, everything in my life, history has always told me, don't pick this Purdue team in March. Do not let this Purdue team be the best. Like, they're going to choke. And you're still going to pick them.
Yeah, until they don't, though.
Until they don't. That's why I'm picking Tennessee.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this Tennessee team, there's actually like tangible evidence to believe that this is different. And that really comes down to they've never had a guy who can score the ball like Dalton Knecht.
Nope.
And they still have that defense. And you got guys like Zakai Ziegler and Dalton Knecht who are like, okay, we're going to be the primary guys getting buckets. We're going to get some contributions in the scoring column from other guys, and we're going to continue playing tough defense. I think it was important that Rick Barnes sort of like go, okay, instead of having a top 5 defense, we might have like a top 10 defense, but have Dalton Knecht be able to drop 20 plus every game. And I think that's going to make a big difference. And at least like there can be a time where it's like, okay, we're not able to score in a Sweet 16 game, right?
Yep.
And you just give the ball to Dalton Knecht.
Yeah, one-on-one.
Did they have that last year?
Absolutely not.
No, they absolutely did not. Once they beat Duke and lost to FAU.
Yeah.
Yeah, once they lost.
Yeah,
in that FAU game, like they just didn't have a guy because Zakai Ziegler was out. I don't love him, but he can score.
Yep.
They just didn't have anyone like that.
Yep.
Who could just score.
Yeah, no, I think that's just the difference, and that's why, like I said, history's shown don't trust Tennessee, don't trust Purdue in these spots, but this
makes me like them more.
This year's different.
I agree.
This year's 100% different. All right. You wanted to get this off. Let's talk about bracketology. This is the year where Joe Lunardi starts getting on your TV. Every night you're watching college basketball, Joe Lunardi sneaks on your TV, and your team's down by like 4 in the second half of the under-16 timeout, and they're cutting back into the game, and you're pissed off. You're like, how are we losing to Georgia Tech right now? And they have Joe Lunardi picture-in-picture with the game, talking for 10 minutes about how Utah State is on the bubble.
I was going to say, and you're wondering, you're going, we're down to Georgia Tech by 7 at the under-16 timeout, and why do I look like I'm sitting in like the nosebleed seats of this game? Yes, but I feel like I have a front row seat to Joe Lunardi's face.
Yes, he's sitting.
It's terrible.
Hey, he was on the podcast. I'm a big Lunardi guy. I'm not hating on Lunardi himself, but the bracketology thing as a whole is so funny.
I think the issue that I have with bracketology is the idea that it's gospel. That is my issue. When we are going, I want you to listen to this, Karter, and I'm looking to the camera. All viewers of the Kartercast podcast need to make sure that in March, conference tournament time, you will notice the people on ESPN will say Utah State is a 7 seed right now. They are a 7 seed right now. We just pretend that Joe Lunardi's bracket is the committee.
Yep.
And I hate that. No, it's a projection. Projections are great. I'm happy Joe Lunardi does it. I'm happy that Jerry Palm does it. But, like, I'm going crazy. Like, this isn't the committee. Joe Lunardi is not the committee. Unless he is. Unless we want to go into conspiracy theory time.
I can get another hat on. I got a tinfoil hat. And
no, but I just hate Texas is a 4 seed. No, they're not. Joe Lunardi hasn't projected as a 4 seed. Oh, well, if they lose today, they become a 3. Or if they lose today, they become a 5 seed.
That is weird.
No, it's a projection.
Yeah, and it also,
which is fine, but just don't treat it like it's not a projection. That's all. That's my rant.
But is it gospel? Is it gospel?
No,
because
unless it is,
because Joe Lunardi might just be that tight with the committee. I asked him on the podcast when we interviewed him. I was like, how much contact do you have with the committee? He was like, oh, well, we talk here and there, and he did his whole spiel. But the problem is, I think the projections are all fairly in line with each other because there's 1,000 bracketology things now with Twitter accounts and whatever, and
it's close enough. And
everyone's close enough to where I think the projections aren't terrible. But I do agree with, all right, the Joe Lunardi stuff is not gospel. I think that's right. And you're like, well, if Wake Forest loses today in the Wednesday of the ACC tournament, they're 100% out. Like, why?
Like, maybe. And I love that the thought that they're doing this, and like the thought that like the committee is just going like day by day doing this.
Yeah.
Like, they don't give a crap.
No.
They're sitting there doing something else. They're probably not even watching basketball.
Isn't it Boo Corrigan, the NC State AD? Or is he just only on the college football?
Right, yeah.
He's on the college football committee, but I think he's on the NCAA tournament one too. What do you think Boo Corrigan is doing? You think he's sitting there grinding Utah State versus New Mexico tape on a Tuesday night on CBS Sports Network?
There's no way in hell, but I know I am.
Yeah, I know. I'm sitting there with Raising Cane's next to me, just sitting there like, oh yeah, I really like Grace Oborius from Utah State. This is great. You know, Danny Sprinkle's got a good program going on there. Shout out Rico Bosco. Yeah, I like bracketology though. I'll say that.
No, I enjoy it too. I like
it.
going on there, just like, especially I'd say post New Year's, once we're getting into conference play.
Yeah.
February is when I really kind of dive into it. March, it's fully immersed. But I like doing. Do you just like start picking?
Oh,
like you see the bracketology and you're like, this is what I'd have.
First thing, you can't.
It doesn't hit the same.
You can't do this year because Virginia blows.
Yeah.
But like I go straight. Well, you knew with BYU. I go straight to Duke and BYU, and I'm like, okay, we can win there. Oh, that's a tough bracket. We got UConn in our bracket. That sucks. And then you're going around. You're like, oh, we have to play BYU in the second round. I'll kill myself if that happens. Like,
yeah,
yeah. No, I fully. I'm a delusional person. Like, I know that through and through, that I am a delusional person. And when I see Joe Lunardi's bracket, I'm like, well, this is kind of close to what it could be. And then I start talking myself into like, oh, Duke and BYU both playing in Pittsburgh. Like, I might have to fly to Pittsburgh. I might have to go to these first-round games.
Is there a dopamine hit that you get when you fill out a bracket, even if it's fake?
Oh,
I think there is.
I've never filled out a fake bracket, but we should. Maybe we do that next week. Whatever Joe Lunardi's bracket.
We take the bracketology and we just start picking it.
We print it out and start filling it out.
The physical bracket. There's nothing like it.
We get a Dollar Tree like cardboard cutout of like Obama's bracket, but it's just like Lunardi's January 23rd bracketology, and we're sitting there filling out.
I think we found a great idea, but yeah, but my point is, it's fake, but you're still having some enjoyment filling it out.
Yeah,
it makes you happy, and you don't know why it makes you happy, but it does make you happy.
Do you? So this is how big of a college basketball fan I am, and how much I think about it. I love it. It's literally like, I love football. I love college football. I love the NFL. I love the NBA. But like in my heart of hearts, when it comes down to it, like college basketball is all that matters to me. Like
I agree.
And so by saying that, do you allow yourself to think about like making plans for March Madness, thinking about, oh man, like Selection Sunday is going to be sweet, like starting to get that little sprinkle of like, oh my gosh, it's coming soon. When does that fully start hitting for you? Because by about mid-February, I would say 70% of my brain is only thinking about March Madness.
Yeah, I'm gonna say March 1st, because then you get the tweet from the March Madness account just starts popping off, where it's like do
and then randomly like you'll
starts playing that. Yeah,
because I think
it's March 1st.
The music doesn't hit for me when it's like right now I'm watching Utah State versus New Mexico.
No,
and you're just like you're like
it's different.
Yeah, you're like yeah, and then like man, late like mid-February. Or the second the clock hits March, it's like, oh my, I can't. If you're in school, I can't do schoolwork. If you're at, you have a 9 to 5, I can't even think there. All I can think about is March.
Yeah, last season, I know once it hit March, even though we were like not even in conference tourney time.
Yep.
Like the end of the regular season, I had an 8 a.m. class. And I was sitting there, like, walking to the class in, like, 30-degree weather. I'm listening to college basketball podcasts.
Yeah.
Once I sit down in class, I'm going through the ESPN bracketology. And then once I leave class, I'm getting back on the college basketball podcast.
Yeah. I dabble in the college basketball podcast in November, December, and early January.
Same. It doesn't hit the same.
Now it's more – this week it started to morph into, like, oh, the majority of the sports podcasts I listen to now are college basketball related.
Yeah.
It's like you still do your NFL ones because you're like, I got, your NFL playoffs, you're there, Super Bowl, all this. The day the Super Bowl ends, then you're only listening to college basketball podcasts.
Agreed. I think that's sort of, it does sort of hit when you're making plans. Like, like my girlfriend's like, oh, let's do this in March. And I'm like,
the poor wives and girlfriends of degenerate men across the country who just taking their limited PTO off to watch 18-year-olds play basketball. Like, the poor wives and girlfriends. I remember, oh my gosh, poor Justine. Poor Justine. Her last year March Madness, we were in the basement and we had cardboard put up on the windows so it didn't bring in any natural light. Just so we could get the projector at the best picture and have no contact with the outside world. The only times I walked outside, and this will be the same this year, the only times you walk outside are, one, when you're mad and you're like, I need to blow off steam. I got to walk outside. Like, I'm pissed after your team loses or you lose a big bet. Or it's like, oh, let's go get pizza. Oh, let's go get food. Let's go pick up food. I think this year I'm going to do the vet move, and I think I'm going to ball out this year. I think I'm going to get delivery during March Madness.
I might as well. That's where, like,
we're
going to
end up watching together.
Yes, like the $30 Uber Eats is actually going to like feel okay.
Yeah,
because it feels like a holiday. It feels like you're able to treat yourself. It's like being home from Christmas break. But I wanted to add that you literally described what I did to a T. We had Mountain Dew, just like a whole pack of Mountain Dew, and I remember telling Tyler, just at the end of the first day, I just said, not everyone can do what we do.
It's a war.
And the one time I went outside was to talk to my dad after the Kihei Clark turnover that led into the Furman game-winning shot. I left. I left immediately and came back in like 30 minutes later, and then I don't think I left again.
The most memorable, besides like the Duke-Tennessee losing, whatever, by far the most memorable moment from last year's tournament was, like, it is a grind. Thursday, at the end of Thursday, you still have some energy. You're like, that was awesome. Let's do it again tomorrow. We're locked and loaded. End of Friday, you're worn down. You're like, holy crap. Like, whew, especially if you're betting on all the games and stuff. Saturday, you're there. Sunday, those Sunday night games when it's like 2 versus 7 or whatever, those are hard. That's when, like, you got the Gatorade sign up. Like, when you're playing 2K, you got a little Gatorade logo up. You're like, man, dude, I'm struggling here. I remember I don't think I've ever cheered louder for a bet than when TCU hit that garbage backdoor cover against Gonzaga last tournament.
Oh, yeah.
That changed my weekend. I was sitting there, like, worn out. I was like, oh, man, like, I got to go to work tomorrow. F me. And that went in, dude. I was like, I could have done another 4 days of March Madness. Just winning that one bet, that one backdoor cover.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, there's highs and lows throughout the day.
Yep.
Like, the beginning, like, once the first game tips, you're like, oh, let's go. And it's like that first, like, group of 4 games. And then there's a couple, like, the middle, you're like, eh. Yep. And then it gets into night, and you're back in it at night.
Yeah.
It gets to, like, 6 p.m., maybe Mountain Time, and you're like, oh, boy. Here we go.
We might have to make a trip to Wendover for one of the days.
We may.
We might. Have you done a casino March Madness?
I have not.
Sneaky overrated.
Really?
Sneaky overrated casino March Madness. If you're able to find one that's not super crowded, I want to be able to sit down in a comfortable chair and watch the games.
I agree.
Like, it's fun being there. Everyone's betting, all this stuff. But also, it's like... Or I could be at my house. I could have my food. I could have my drinks. I could have my bathroom, have my couch. Maybe I'm just turning into an old white man.
Well, here's the thing.
Which is definitely
there's a rite of passage to be able to watch March Madness with me. So yes. I'm not sure if I can go to a casino and just watch with random people.
It's fun.
Yeah, it could be.
But
I couldn't do it for my team.
That's what I was going to say. The key is don't go during your team. I went in 22 when the Paolo Banchero Duke team. I was in Denver. We went to the casino. I went Thursday. Duke played Friday. I watched the Duke game in the hotel room, and I was, pissing my pants against Cal State Fullerton. But the Thursday, it was when St. Peter's beat Kentucky. And, like, that's awesome. But, yeah, you can't go the day your team is playing, 100%.
No, you absolutely cannot.
All right, I think that's enough March Madness talk. Let's do you want to rank and tier some commentators?
Sure.
Gus Johnson. I know he's not color, he's play-by-play, but Gus Johnson.
He's great.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think he's a little too much at times? I don't like regular season Gus Johnson.
Yeah, March Gus Johnson hits though.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it does.
Bill Raftery.
I used to not like him, and then I realized I was being the idiot. I was the dumb one in the room.
You were the problem.
Yeah, I was the problem. I don't now. This is a bad take, hot take. People aren't gonna like this. Not the biggest Onions fan. No, I don't. The Onions thing doesn't hit for me. I don't know why. Onions like it. Or like, what are we doing? Like,
you know what hits for me? Send it in, Jerome.
Send it in, Jerome. Yeah, he's. I do like Bill Raftery though. A lot.
Little miniman.
Yeah. What is that? Like, am I?
I don't know.
Like Bill Walton. You hate him.
I like him in Maui.
I love Bill Walton.
Otherwise, I don't. I'm not a big Bill Walton guy.
I don't want Bill Walton during my team.
Thankfully, he's never on my team.
No, he'll never do a BYU. Or I guess in Maui he could do one of ours, but you don't care then.
Virginia hasn't really gone to Maui.
Yeah, and Duke doesn't play MTs anymore. Yeah, I love Bill Walton. Everyone knows I love Bill Walton. I got the Bill Walton signed book, everything. Got a picture of Bill Walton. I love him. Yeah, I won't say a negative thing about Bill Walton. I refuse.
I love Dick Vitale.
Oh yeah, people who hate Dick Vitale suck.
They do.
They 100. I love Dickie V.
Oh baby.
Yeah, I love Dickie V.
The diaper dandy. Here's my one complaint. We can't use one and done guys as diaper dandies. That doesn't hit for me. Like Zion Williamson wasn't a diaper dandy. Brandon Miller, not a diaper dandy.
I guess.
Like Jeremy Roach when he was a freshman, like diaper dandy.
So you're saying like the top NBA picks can't be?
Yeah, just because they're a little too impactful. Diaper dandy. It's
Grayson
like,
Allen. Freshman
yes,
Grayson
yeah,
Allen.
Yeah, he's a diaper dandy.
He's in the Wisconsin game making that run. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a diaper dandy.
Love Dickie V. Dickie V's one
great.
of unbelievable. Yeah, there you go.
Unbelievable.
Trying to think who else.
How about them hoes?
All right,
that's a classic.
Billis? Jay Billis.
It depends. I mostly like him, but then sometimes he's a little too cranky for me.
Let me ask you this. This is a poll I have. Does Jay Billis hate Duke?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Which is a big reason why my family likes him.
He clearly hates Duke. He overcorrects his bias 100%. And he loves Carolina. His best friend is the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Yep, and I do think it's crazy when you see people who say, oh, he's biased for Duke. It's like, well, you don't actually listen to him. You just know he played at Duke. And that's it.
As a Duke fan, every Duke fan sitting here cussing at the TV.
Yeah.
They
all hate him.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to interview him, though. I'd like to talk to him. I want to ask him why. I'd love to have him on.
You're not a Seth Greenberg guy, aren't you?
No.
I like Seth Greenberg.
No, because he's harmless to you. I just think there's better people. I like Jay Williams for college basketball. I don't like him in NBA or in like pro sports on Get Up and on the Stephen A. Smith Show or First Take, but I do like him on College Game Day a lot.
Yeah, I like him too because he kind of has some of that Get Up First Take energy, but I like him just sprinkling that energy into college basketball. It like gives its own like it's a flavor or a little taste or seasoning that we need, but he's not going all in. When he's going all in, it's like, you're not Stephen A. You're not that guy. But like you can sprinkle a little bit that into college basketball and it works.
This is going to be a biased take, very biased. I think the most underrated guy though is John Fanta.
John Fanta's awesome.
Fanta's amazing. He brings that energy. He brings the energy every single time. He is unbelievable. He's a delight to hear. He knows basketball. He's not super biased towards one way or another. He tries to call it like he sees it. You can just tell he just loves basketball.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely a big fan of John Fanta. Should we bring up someone I don't like?
Who?
Corey Alexander.
Oh, yeah. No.
He's the worst. UVA's finest.
Yeah, no,
Corey Alexander.
I don't think is there anybody that's like, dude, Corey Alexander, man. Awesome. Like,
I've got one.
Virginia Tech fans?
Corey Alexander.
Corey. All right, that got me.
He's someone who that's the big thing that I always complain about, or that UVA people complain about, is he just name drops the entire time.
Yeah.
It's like he's just promoting himself. Anyways.
Rest in peace, LaFonso Ellis. I liked him.
He was awesome.
Yeah, I liked him. I guess it's a good lead-in. Corey Alexander, State of the Union. Do you want to do Virginia State of the Union? We can do a minute timer.
Sure.
See if I can. We'll just count. Just go. Go ahead.
Sure. They're young. They're not experienced within the UVA system. I think that I'm not panicked on the program. I think I've sort of given up on high aspirations for this team. They don't really have a high ceiling. But I think a lot of these guys are going to come back and be here multiple years, and they're going to start getting back to the UVA standard in the next few years.
So that's what you've talked yourself into.
It is what I've talked myself into, and I've also created, since 2019, a year-by-year comparison to UVA and UNC, and it is not much different.
All right, talk to me.
Okay, so UNC's missed the tournament twice since 2019, right?
Correct, if you include the 2020 COVID season.
Yeah, I'm including that because they were like under 500. Well, they're like the worst team in the ACC.
They did start COVID to do that, so that's a different conspiracy.
That's a conspiracy?
The Wuhan lab was a UNC lab, so
okay. Gotcha.
Putting that out there.
So 2020, they weren't even going to make the NIT.
Just kidding, YouTube. I swear.
Virginia was going to be.
I don't want to get banned, YouTube. I swear.
Virginia was going to be a 7 seed or a 6 seed. 2021, UNC was a 7 seed. Virginia was a 4 seed. 2022, UNC was an 8 seed. Virginia was in the NIT. I guess put the disclaimer. UNC made the national championship and almost won it, but we don't care about that.
Yeah, no. I remember that.
That's not relevant.
I wasn't at that game.
That's not relevant. 2023, UNC NIT, UVA 4 seed. This year, I put UNC 1 or 2 seed, and then Virginia NIT or I'm still think.
Do you think that UVA can make the tournament? I think they can.
I think they can.
They have to win like 9 straight, though.
I think I've sort of, I see a future in the program where I think Tony Bennett, he's not someone who wants to stay around forever. I think in 5 years is when he's probably going to be hanging it up. And we've got good high school recruits coming in. Either they're freshmen or sophomores now, or they're going to be coming in the next couple of years. And he's recruiting. He's on a roll with high school recruiting. And the big thing is they're not experienced, but they're playing right now. They're going to get to become juniors and seniors, and they're going to be good again. I think the vision is he's got 5-ish years left. He wants this group of guys who are high school juniors, high school seniors, and then guys who are freshmen and sophomores to all sort of be raised up together. And then there's going to be 1 to 2 years of them competing nationally again. And he's going to make a Final Four, and then he's going to hang it up. That's what I think happens. I think
he could go out
I think it's a Final Four Jay Wright type thing with his calling Gillespie, and Justin Moore, and it's yeah.
How old is he?
Tony Bennett?
Yeah,
mid-50s. He's not a college basketball. He's not a coaching lifer. That's the rumor.
So he likes his wife.
Yes,
he has a healthy marriage.
He loves his children. But yeah, I think we're going to see 2014 to 2019 Virginia basketball. I think that's going to be back in a couple years, and it will last for 2 years. And he will make a Final Four, not win a national championship, but make a Final Four and go out Jay Wright style. That's the vision I have.
You guys have to win every game in January to make the tournament.
Yeah, and as crazy as it sounds, they could.
Oh, yeah. If you're listening right now, it's at Georgia Tech, home NC State, at Louisville, home Notre Dame. They'll probably be favored in 3 out of 4.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe all 4. I mean, State at home, Virginia's probably going to be favored. And then pretty easy February schedule because it's the ACC. The number one game, though, is you guys got to beat Carolina. If you guys beat Carolina, that
changes the season.
Yeah.
Or Duke.
Yeah, Duke's just so late. I mean, I guess
it's
those
true.
Are
but with North Carolina, that creates positive momentum.
Yeah.
Speaking of Seth Greenberg, he's looking at that being ooh, I would love to beat UNC and then lose to Boston College right after.
Seth Greenberg. No, that's Wake Forest. That's Steve Forbes.
Okay.
That's Steve Forbes.
I think Steve Forbes beats the allegations this time.
But Seth Greenberg, he made the tournament.
Yeah, that's true.
Once, right? twice.
Yeah, but we just ignore that.
Yeah, I think we're going to do the same thing with Wake Forest because they're going to lose in the first round. And I'm going to bet Wake Forest to win in the first round, whoever they play, because I love Wake Forest.
Yeah.
But they're going to lose to the Colorado States or Utah States of the world.
I agree.
And then we're just going to forget, like, oh, yeah, Steve Forbes, he did make that one tournament. It's like when Danny Manning, they made the Dayton First Four with John Collins. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, yeah, they did lose to Kansas State and Dayton. But, like, they didn't make the tournament. Like,
yeah.
And that's how we're going to remember. Even if they get in the real tournament, we're still not going to remember it like that. All right, Saturday upset watch, and then we'll get out of here. Let's pull this up real quick. What teams are on Saturday upset watch? We don't have lines out. We're recording right now. It's like 10 o'clock Eastern time.
I did
Thursday.
Mostly based on rankings.
That's what I did too, because some of these games, you're going to hear this and you're going to see the lines up by the time you're probably listening on Friday. And it's like Cincinnati's going to be favored against Oklahoma at home. And whatever the line is, give me Cincinnati.
I agree. I don't even consider that an upset, really.
Texas is going to be favored at home.
I was going to say Texas beating Baylor.
Love that.
St. John's, I think, could beat Marquette.
That St. John. So you see the Marquette St. John's game and then Seton Hall Creighton.
I have that too.
I think those are upset watches.
Yeah.
Not both of those don't win, but one of the unranked teams does win.
I agree.
And then like Iowa, TCU, there's no upsets there. I don't think Tennessee's on upset watch against Bama.
I think they could be just because of the Nate Oates philosophy of just chucking up threes.
Yeah.
They could just hit a bunch of threes and win. Like, that's why I put them there. But Tennessee's a better team. It's in Knoxville. So I do like Tennessee. Is
Carolina on upset watch against Boston College?
I'm going to say no.
No, I'm kidding.
I do. The one last one is Georgia's not a joke.
Yeah, but it's at Rupp Arena. I don't think.
I know. I don't think so either, but I just wanted to throw that out there because Georgia basketball, like, I just wanted to give them their flowers a little bit.
You know what sucks is that, like, for me, I got BYU at 4 o'clock Mountain Time and Duke at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. It's right in the middle of the NFL playoffs.
And I've got Virginia 4 p.m. Mountain Time, BYU 4 p.m. Mountain Time.
Yeah, 3 TVs.
Can we space this out? Like, could that not have been 10 and 12? And then I could watch football.
The poor wives and girlfriends these next couple months.
Yeah,
and
that's why it's a breakfast date Saturday.
Yeah, well, when you live with them, every day's a breakfast day.
Fair enough.
And you know, getting a third TV out usually isn't a cool idea.
Oh, man.
All right, that's it from us. Make sure to subscribe on the YouTube. If you're watching right here on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Follow us at CarterCasts on all social media, at CarterBA on Twitter, at BDHammond28, I believe, on X, Twitter,
correct, you got
it's
it.
called. And follow us on there. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week, same time, same everything. And we'll be back next week for the NFL pod. Tune in for that. And we'll see y'all next time.